Talk about the television side. Oh my God, I'm so drunk. Okay, just hit. So this is gonna be so much fun. So we're gonna talk about the TV shows that we love this year. And we're gonna start with our honorable mentions. So we're gonna start with the shows that we liked, but that weren't quite in our top 3. So I'm gonna throw it to you, Mary. Go.
The first one for me is the show Legacy. It is a Chinese drama set in the late 1920s. And I've only just started. I'm on episode 3. Their whole season is almost 40 episodes. One season is 40 episodes. And there's no dubbing. So it's something I have to watch when I have time to sit down and focus and read the subtitles. But so far, stylistically, it's very, very good. But it didn't make my top 3 just because I haven't finished it all the way. Another honorable mention would definitely be Interview with a Vampire and Rings of Power, which I know we're going to talk about later. They just didn't make my top 3 because I knew you were going to talk about it, but I love them both so much. They're so good. This was the Interview with a Vampire that I really have always wanted. And Rings of Power, it feels like I'm coming home anytime I step into a project about Middle Earth. It's just, I get the warm and fuzzies. Ugh.
What about you, Allie? What's your honorable mentions?
Okay, so I have a lot.
I never said you had a list.
And she's got her notes ready.
I live with a cat, so I watch a lot of television. That being said, Miss Marvel. I love that show. Not the top 3, but I loved it. I would probably watch it again. Loved the casting, loved the storyline. I loved the feel that it was like a teenage drama, but I'm at a certain age and I still enjoyed it. Euphoria. Holy fuck. Use my language. But this season was insane. And the dude who's not Nathan, but that actor, because nouns, yeah, he actually like did a little bit of growth this season. So yes, Euphoria, crazy, loved it. Umbrella Academy, just because, yes, freaking amazing. I think I watched it in 2 nights. The storytelling in that show is awesome. The dance scene had me cracking up. Like, there was so much in this season that I loved. But again, not top 3, but freaking awesome. The Boys, holy Nazi crap. Holy Nazi crap. Penis, a lot of penis. Andor. What a transition. I loved it. And for people that were complaining about this being a slower Star Wars story, okay, it might have been slow, but it was the storytelling that stole the show. It doesn't have to be all explosions and fight scenes. That had a beautiful start to finish ending in this show. It was nice to follow. Like, it was well written. It was a great Star Wars story that didn't have to do anything with some of the, I guess, favorite characters. I don't know. Anything's about it. So I have 2 left. She-Hulk. Holy crap. Awesome. Who doesn't love her? I mean, she nails the character. The comedy, fabulous. Breaking the 3rd wall in so many ways, especially with Daredevil. Hello. And then last but not least, House of Dragons. Just because I love me some dragons. I know, I'm sorry, Mary, but I liked the show. I'm
just here to watch everybody die on that show, and they actually will.
I mean, they will. We're gonna get there. But for now, it's the way that they left us, which sucks, because we have to wait 2 more years. What's with that?
I think it's that they're going to start filming in 2023, and then it's not going to actually air until 2024.
Yeah. So House of Dragons, and that's my honorable mentions, and I'm sure I could think of others, but you know what didn't make the list?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my honorable mentions. Bye.
My honorable mentions, The Crown. This season was very well written. It was way too much Charles propaganda for me. But Elizabeth Debicki is Diana. It is freaking uncanny. It's disturbing how much she's Diana. And the casting was really great. Again, like I said, and although, yeah, I will say they definitely humanized Charles a great deal more. And I will say, from an outside point of view, I always felt bad for Charles because of the circumstances, because all this could have been avoided in real life had they just let him marry who he wanted to marry. And that set a series of events that led to Diana's death. For me, this series was very good, but there was a part of me knowing, having seen it in real life, having watched it in real time, having felt the devastation in real time of Diana's death. I want to say when she died, I was a teenager. Yes. And to this day, it hurts. So this season was upsetting because you know what's coming. And so there's a part of me that's just like, I don't want to go past her being happy. I know what's coming and I don't want to see it. And I think that definitely colored this season for me. Warrior Nun on Netflix is absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's phenomenal. Paper Girls on Amazon Prime was so great. It was so great. I'm super pissed that was canceled. I hope that they have a change of heart. Amazon Prime is known for going, oh, y'all really like that? Never mind, we'll bring it back. Cowboy Bebop, still mad.
Was
Still
that
mad.
this year?
Yeah. Top of the year.
It's been a long year.
Media.
I forgot that was even this year.
Years.
Moon Knight. I know Allie and John hated Moon Knight, but I loved Moon Knight. It got through. It was the last thing I watched before Marvel fatigue set in. I really want to watch She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel, but I just need a minute. Good God. There's just so much Marvel shit in the last year. I'm just like, oh, Lord of mercy. Obi-Wan. Was. I appreciate Obi-Wan was good in and of itself, but the fact that Hayden Christensen is finally getting his flowers, because he is an amazing actor. And the fact that he made us, given George Lucas's direction, for whatever you want to say about George Lucas, I think we can all agree that he is not an actor's director. His direction, if you're not being able to bring it in from yourself, is not going to make that work. And to see Hayden give the performance that he gave on Obi-Wan, I have been preaching the gospel of Hayden Christensen for 20 years now. Good God, good Lord. And about how good of an actor he is, and the fact that he made Anakin work in those prequels, because the direction he was given wasn't great. So to see everybody else finally get on board was very gratifying for me.
Yeah. Also, Moses Ingram as Reva.
Oh my God, Moses Ingram's
like us.
I legit need to see more of her character. Yeah, I need to see more of her character. I'm really hoping we get a season 2, and I'm really hoping we see more of her. It would be interesting. I really hope, low key, that we find out that she's been protecting Luke the whole time. That her character was helping Obi-Wan keep Luke basically concealed the entire time. Because she's so good, and it would make sense logically. But the little girl who played Leia was also just freaking delightful. She was channeling Carrie Fisher in a way that was uncanny. She was just, oh God, I just wanted to hug her. And also, I was a little afraid of her. And that was a perfect combination.
It's like, realistically, we know she's okay because she's playing young Leia. We know she's good.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Those were my shows, and obviously I loved Stranger Things and The Boys. Those were both good. I'm kind of pissed. The Stranger Things doesn't make my top 3 because I'm getting tired of all of the gays getting murdered that are not the ones that are protected by plot armor.
I'm also very tired of their continued writing of introducing a new character that they know everyone is going to love just to kill them off to avoid killing off main characters. It's tired and predictable and boring, and I'm sick of it.
I honestly did not expect Chrissy or Eddie to die because they were such great characters, and when they both did, I was genuinely pissed off. And it was so predictable. So as much as it was well acted, and as much as I was happy that Steve made it out alive, because like literally, Steve.
He is so dead next season.
He's gonna die next season. There's no way he's gonna make it out alive. The minute he said, I want to get married and have a bunch of kids, I was like, oh, you dying. If not this year, the next. You gonna die.
Also, the fact that he wants to get back together with the ex that cheated on him. They brought back this dumb love triangle that nobody wanted.
That is literally why Stranger Things is not in my top 3, because I hate that storyline. I hate it so much. It's so gross, and I do not like it. And I think it perpetuates, in all honesty, in real life, it perpetuates emotionally abusive relationships. And I don't like that. And it doesn't matter that it's a woman. If that was a dude, if the roles were reversed, one of the things we've talked about on this podcast multiple times, if the characters were reversed and it was Stephanie and not Steve, and the situation was reversed, people would be having torches out for Netflix for putting them back together. It's not okay. I don't like it. It's not okay. Stop saying toxic behavior is okay when it's a woman doing it. It's not cool. So those are mine, which is why, like I said, which is why Stranger Things and The Boys, as much as I love this season, Homelander should have lost his powers. I hate that he didn't. Everything was leading up to that, and then they freaking punked out at the last minute. And I hate that. I hate it. I hate it because that would have been an interesting and new direction for the show to take. And unfortunately, it falls into the same trap that the comic books fall into, that the show is based on, which is, at what point is it too grim? At what point do you just get sick of it? And when there's no hope of this character getting taken down, do you just go, I can't deal with this anymore? There are too many things. Maeve leaving the way that at least they didn't kill her like they did in the comic books. Because in the comic books, she's dead. Super dead. But I still feel a type of way. I just do. Don't like it. So, despite how good the show was and how phenomenal Jensen was, why he was just the perfect spanner in the works for the season for everyone, the ending left me a little cold. So that's why they're not in my top 3.
Okay, so my top 3, I'm going to start with the Orville. So this, I love the show, and I feel like this past season, it just hit so many new notes. I know not everybody is a fan of Seth MacFarlane, and that's fine. But what this season did, I'm just starting off it with Isaac, if you're familiar, is the robot. It starts off with suicide, and that being the main topic of the show. And for such could be considered a quirky show, humorous. I mean, obviously Seth MacFarlane is the writer and is the star of the show. This season had so many twists and turns and made everything so real. So starting off with the topic of suicide and how it affected everybody in the crew, what brought this robot, who's supposed to not even have feelings, had committed suicide on the show. And that's how they started the season off. And throughout, I mean, you're dealing with all these different worlds wanting to fight each other, team up with each other. Then they even brought in the topic of gendered identity with Tova. And she knew she wasn't male. So if you watch the show, when their species are born, they are male and female, and they always make them male. They foresee that is the superior gender, and so that's what you have to be. Well, she knew she was female, and in the show, she finally was able to get to become female and was ostracized. It made everybody on the ship compromised because they're breaking lots of rules and whatever codes they're supposed to follow. But it again, for such a show that's not supposed to be, but it usually is a little bit more quirky and funny, this season hit so many serious notes and was done really well. I know it pissed off a lot of people because they're like, why did it have to go political? Da, 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 da. I'm like, you do know what the show's about though, right?
That infuriates me because it was political in seasons 1 and 2. It was dialed down because the first 2 seasons focused more on the comedic aspects. And season 3, they got a bigger budget. They moved networks. They could have longer scripts, longer episodes. So they focused more on the political stuff and smattered in the comedy.
Yeah.
It was all much like Star Trek, that it's basically a spoof of. It always had those political undertones.
Yeah.
Are y'all gonna make me watch the Seth MacFarlane show? Too many people I know like the show.
Yes.
Right.
I'm happy that I know Allie watches it. I thought I was
Y'all know how much I dislike Seth MacFarlane, and y'all gonna make me watch a Seth MacFarlane show. Damn you.
I'm so glad that it changed platforms because I feel like they were able to dive into these topics a lot harder than otherwise. And I really am hoping that they're gonna have another season. Right now, he's saying that there's a 50-50 chance that it's gonna happen. And I think that's kind of fitting. The last episode is literally called The Future's Unknown.
Yeah.
But I think with the ratings, he should move forward. And I think with the topics that he's been drawing out and the character developments that he's had, I want to see what Topa, what she becomes, because she wants to break the mold in so many other ways. What was it? The Kylons? Is that it?
The Kalons.
Kalons?
Isaac's people.
Yeah, Isaac's people. Thank you. The fact that they've become more, I guess, yeah, they're gonna cooperate. And seeing, but see that was a whole other storyline. Is why
the whole thing,
because the freaking humans destroyed them, and that's why they want to destroy humans. You made them that way. So yeah, this season was awesome, and that is why it's my top pick.
Man, what about you?
I love the Orville. I don't mind Seth MacFarlane. I don't love him. I don't hate him. I don't mind him. So when I heard he was doing a basically kind of Galaxy Quest, Star Trek spoof, I was on board for it because I love sci-fi shows. And I love every single person in this cast. I love every single character from day one, and I was anxiously awaiting season 3. And when it finally got here, he delivered on such a different level. I've seen some people online say that you don't need to watch the first 2 seasons to enjoy season 3, and that is not true at all. Because every single episode of season 3 is a callback to episodes and characters that you meet in kind of like the Monster of the Week style in the first 2 seasons. They bring up stories from the first 2 seasons. Plus, if you just jump into season 3, you're not going to understand these characters, what they've just gone through, their relationships to each other. They've been through so much. There's so much going on. And even though the last episode of season 3 is called Futures Unknown, if it ends at season 3, even though there are still unanswered questions and there are still some plot holes, like Ed has a daughter now that he can't get to because of this intergalactic war, and his species and her mother's are at war, it ends on a fairly positive, peaceful note. Compared to season 2, it ended with we're an all-out intergalactic war with the worst possible thing, and we don't know if we're going to survive. This ended on a fairly peaceful note, and I love that. So even if we don't get a season 4, I hope dearly that we do, because I love this show so much. It ends in a sweet spot where I can be content if this is the end.
So what you're saying is that despite my deep abiding dislike of Seth MacFarlane, I need to watch The Orville.
If anything, my favorite character, which is Claire. Penny Gerald Johnson delivers in every single.
She always does, though. She always does. She's always that bitch. Okay. All right, Mary, what's one of your top picks?
Let me refer to my list. Well, since we're talking about space, I might as well. Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Excited for this show. After season 2 of Discovery and getting to see Anson Mount as Captain Pike and finding out he was getting a spin-off about Pike's era as captain of the Enterprise, I was on board. Because not only is Anson Mount a daddy, he's so fine, but we're gonna get to see the early stages of the crew that we see in the original series of Star Trek before Kirk's era, because it's 10 years before Kirk's era. So we're getting hints to certain things. Spock is there, Christine Chapel is there, an inexperienced and unconfident Uhura is there, and I love it. It's still very classic Trek, where, and some people say of modern Trek that it's too woke. Trek has always been woke. Always. It was a show in the 60s that had a black woman, an Asian man, and a Russian in the 1960s on their main cast on the bridge. They were always talking about serious political issues. It was just set in space. And Star Trek and Strange New Worlds is really carrying on that legacy and that expectation. And as is Discovery, as are all the current Trek shows. And I love that so much. But what really drew me in, besides Anson Mount, was just the fact that I was getting Christine Chapel back. I love Christine Chapel in the original series. I love Dr. Mbenga, and his solo episode in Strange New Worlds is honestly my favorite. It brought me to tears. But Christine Chapel was the female character that I identified with as a child watching the series, and I have been sorely missing her in the modern J.J. Abrams movies, where she's really kind of dismisses a one-off line about, oh, Kirk slept with her and she changed schools. No. You're not doing that to Christine Chapel. This is the woman that goes head-to-head with Bones and calls him out on his shit and isn't afraid to do so. So getting her back has been such a delight. I really hope that she sticks around. everyone in the cast is phenomenal. Getting to meet new characters like La'an and oh god, I'm forgetting his name. Hemmer, who's a blind Andorian, and the actor is actually blind. It's making such great strides, and I'm eagerly awaiting season 2 because they've set up so much.
Strange New Worlds makes you realize just how much Scott Buck wasted the entire cast of Inhumans, because Anson Mount is a gold mine, and that show had the perfect cast. Well, except for Crystal. Crystal sucked dick. She was terrible. But everyone else was phenomenal. She was awful, y'all. It's just, I wanted to punch her in the face every time she came on screen. Every time she came on screen, I was like, y'all just wanted a blonde. That's the only thing I can explain. There's so many other blondes that are available that y'all could have. Why did you pick this one?
That one sucks dick. That's why.
She was... Crystal on Inhumans was my version of you watching Rogue in the X-Men movies. Every time she showed up, exactly, that is the face. Every time she showed up, I was like, this bitch. But Strange New Worlds shows just how wasted Anson Mount was, and once again reinforces that Scott Buck should not be allowed to do anything else in television ever again, because the cast for Iron Fist was perfect. The cast he ruined the last 2 seasons of Dexter. He ruined Inhumans. And I just can't. But I do, Strange New Worlds is so good. And I was scared, to be honest. Because I was like, Picard is so bad. Picard is so bad. I hate Picard. It's not good, y'all. I'm sorry. It's just not a good show. And nostalgia is not enough for me to enjoy it.
I have high hopes for season 3 because the whole cast is coming from Next Generation. I have high hopes for season 3. But, season 2 was not it.
Season 1 wasn't it. The only good things about season 1 was our adorable Romulan kid, who was basically Picard's son, and Seven of Nine's entire plot. Everything else, I was like, what is this? Why is this? What is happening? I hate everything. Allie's like, oh damn, but I hate it. I didn't even watch season 2 because I hated it. I hated season 1 so much that I was angry. It made me mad. It made me actively pissed off, because I was like, how do you have this cast, and just, what the hell? It's so badly written, and it's so bad. So I was scared about Strange New Worlds. But much like Discovery, Strange New Worlds is the shit. It is everything I want in a Star Trek show, and then some. I'm just going to pretend Picard doesn't exist, because Lord knows nothing that happens on it matters. So I don't care. And look, y'all, I can spend this entire podcast trashing Picard, character by character. We ain't going to do that today. But I could, because I hate that fucking show. It's so bad.
Together.
We do need to do our hate podcast one day. We keep saying we're going to do it, and we haven't done it. We need to do it. So I'm so pleased by Strange New Worlds. Rebecca Romaine Stamos is Rebecca Romaine. I keep wanting to call her Rebecca Romaine Stamos because in my heart she's still married to John Stamos. They were so perfect together, at least visually. But she's so great as number 1, and I love that. The show is just good. It's that simple. It's just a good show. It is a good show that bridges the gap between Next Generation and the original series and Discovery in a way that Picard ham-fistedly tried to do. It does a better job of making all of this through line make sense. if that makes sense. And it's just well acted, well done, and I just love it. One of my top threes. We're going to start with Interview with the Vampire. It's so good, y'all. My favorite thing about Interview with the Vampire is how mad it made the people who hated that Louis was black. But after that, and I'm like, y'all realize that it was actually a custom in the time frame that the show is set for French and English noble people to have their other families of Caribbean descent, who they made sure this was an actual thing that happened, that was real, that is a real thing that really happened, that a lot of French and Dutch and English nobles had literal whole other families in the Caribbean and in the Carolinas and Louisiana. And they made sure, no, I cannot claim you formally, but you will go to the best schools. You will have all of the money. You will have land. I will make sure you are set up for life. That's a thing that happened. So, it is amazing to me how many people don't know history. Because this show is very much, in a way, in all honesty, Anne Rice's novels were not based in the actual history of Louisiana. And there's a lot of conversations happening on this show. There's the conversation about colorism. There's the conversation about racism. There's the conversation about homosexuality. There's a whole lot of conversations happening on the show. But if you're not here for that, watch Lestat go on a rampage and murder everybody. This show is so well acted. Mary and I both were here for Jacob Anderson. I was here because, as I said in previous podcasts, I know Jacob Anderson as Riley Ritchie. If you haven't heard his albums, get off this podcast right now. Go look up Riley Ritchie. Listen to his albums. They are fun. Everyone is better than the last one.
After the podcast.
Okay, fine. After the podcast. Every album is better than the last one. The new album just dropped. It's really good. So that's where I knew him from. When he showed up on Game of Thrones, I was very confused. I was like, you act? I'm very confused. And he was great as Grey Worm on Game of Thrones. Although I still, to a day, have this problem with a black man murdering a bunch of people for his white savior. But that's a whole other conversation. But suffice to say, I showed up for Jacob Anderson. I stayed for Jacob Anderson. I stayed for the writing. It's so good. As soon as they said the crew from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul was on board, I was like, all right, I'm here for this. It's so good. And also, can we just talk about the scenery porn? Oh my God, every costume. The costumes, the settings, everything is just so lush. That's the only word to describe it. It's just lush. It's visually, it just feels like you can almost feel the Louisiana heat on your skin, honey. It just feels, it looks and feels like you're there. It's just a great show. It's well done. Sam Reed is phenomenal. He actually makes Lestat empathetic, which is hard because Lestat is a prick. But you never forget that Lestat is a monster. And they do a great job with that. There's a great balance. Lestat, to me, is what they were trying for with Kylo Ren. Does that make sense?
It does. A lot, actually.
Yep. They were trying for it and they didn't understand it. Lestat is a complete monster, but you get why he is the way he is. You understand it. You hate his guts, but you understand it. You get it. And you get his obsessive love for Louis and Claudia. You get it. You get it. You hate it. You want them to get the fuck away from him. But you get it. You know? It's just a good show. It's beautiful to look at. It's well written. The sex scenes are... It's not a show to watch with your parents. Made that mistake. Watched the first episode with my mother. Not a good idea. But I was like, can't watch this with you ever again. Thanks, love you, bye. You can watch on your own. I'm never watching this show with you. But it is really great show. I cannot wait. It's already been renewed for season 2. And they're doing the next set of books. And if this team is doing the, the witches. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, the Mayfair Witches. I'm going to be here for that because the Mayfair Witches to me was her weakest set of books. But this team does such a great job with the show that I'm like, you know what? I trust y'all. Hopefully it's not misplaced trust, but I trust y'all to make Mayfair Witches work. So that would be my first pick. Allie, what's your next pick?
So my next pick is a newer show. Just came out last week. It's Wednesday. I was excited for the show to come out. I did not expect to love it so much. I mean, I love the Addams Family. I love the black and white. I love the 90s versions. I love the comics. I love the Addams Family. They're quirky, they're kooky, they're everything and spooky. And this show, it's like everything you want Harry Potter to be and more. I love the Nevermore School. Coming from Baltimore, I love anything that's Edgar Allan Poe driven, and every throw that mentions him is awesome. I love their little secret groups that they have, the mermaids, the werewolves, all the monsters. Again, stuck with names, but Captain Phasma.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Who is stunning in life, in everything.
Amazing. And like, she, for such a character, I don't want to spoil it because Mary, I know you haven't seen it. I actually really don't want to spoil this for you. So
yeah, I'm not in pigtails because I watched Wednesday. It was just a day where I needed pigtails, but I'm gonna watch it eventually. I haven't had.
I think the three of us should definitely do the Addams Family again. Ron and I have already been with Trisha and Gomez. You can be Wednesday, and Allie can be Pugsley. Is all I'm saying.
And that was another thing. The casting was so wonderfully done because it was more of a throwback to the comics. Like fabulous. I loved the dark. I loved her roommate, that they like had this weird understanding balance, and I watched it. I was alone for Thanksgiving evening and I watched it all in one night pretty much. I couldn't stop, and I was totally focused and drawn into these characters and into the storylines, the monsters that they put in there, different story plots, and this is why I think there's going to be another season, is because so many of the background characters that they're bringing in, especially one of the mermaids, I'm forgetting her name right now because nouns, she had this backstory with her mom, and I'm pretty sure next season they're going to bring that in a little bit more. So yeah, I'm surprised that this was going to be one of my picks, maybe because it is so fresh in my brain, but it was so good. It was so well done. The stories, I love the casting. I think they did a phenomenal job. If you haven't seen Wednesday yet, because it is the newer one that I'm talking about right now, I totally recommend it. It's awesome.
I will say that dance that she does, that clip is all over any website. That dance is being recreated all over TikTok. But the song,
was she choreographed?
Yeah, I know. I watched her interview with it. She does such a great job because you can see like classic like black and white TV Wednesday dance moves and like Susie Sue. It's so good. But the song, the Guggenmuck song, every time I hear it, I think of Steve Martin in Little Shop of Horrors. That's who it sounds like to me.
That's funny.
And I don't know why.
That's funny.
Oh, that's right. She is a guest star in the show too.
It was awesome seeing her in this show and not being Wednesday, but being this other character. Oh, it's so dope. Yeah, and that's all I'm gonna say because I can't spoil it.
Nice. I'm gonna jump and say, speaking of Gwendolyn Christie, and then I'm gonna throw it to you, Mary, Sandman. Oh, God. From start to finish. From start to finish.
I forgot that was this year too. That's going to be another of my honorable mentions. Is Sandman.
It was so good.
So much good TV this year.
It was really good TV year. I
think it was. We are obviously not out of the pandemic, but things were a little bit easier to do.
Yeah.
They've been able to not necessarily pump out, but the quality they've been able to put out was, I think, easier to do. So we've gotten so much wonderful television this year. Good job, TV.
I loved that show from the opening sequence. The casting was perfect across the board. There was not one moment in that show that I wasn't 100% on board. And I cannot wait because I have read the comic books. I own the comic books. My mom is currently reading that specific run. Yes, she still collects. Yes, she's 73, and yes, she still collects. It's not my version, it's hers. That's right. So I know what's coming. I know what the fallout of that fight between him and Lucifer is going to be. And I'm just like, and I know that they got renewed for season 2. So I'm just like, oh damn, it's about to go on. It's about to be on. Mason Alexander, I think people focus on Tom Sturridge, as they should, because he's phenomenal as Dream. But Mason Alexander Park on Cowboy Bebop, on Sandman, just absolutely stunning. The performance, the looks, honey. I was like, I need to find everything that they're wearing so that I can wear it, because the looks alone were worth the price of admission. It's just good. And of course, Kirby Howell Baptiste as Death. And then
in the best way in her episode.
Yes, she encapsulated that character so perfectly. The scene where she reaps the baby, that was just beautiful. It was beautiful. It was heartbreaking. It was quiet. It was quietly stunning. Yeah, I am here for it. I want to see more of the story. I want to see now. I'm interested to see, because a lot of Neil Gaiman's writing overall, but particularly with the Sandman, is very one shot, if that makes sense. They're contained stories. But for those who are not comic book aficionados, the Lyta Hall storyline is really important. Because I don't think people know who she is. And I'm like, oh boy, that's a big thing. Because Lyta Hall is the daughter of Steve Rogers and Wonder Woman. And her husband is the son of Hawkman and Hawkwoman. So the baby, the mystical baby she's pregnant with, I'm like, oh, child. That is going to be a big deal. And so I'm really interested to see what happens with that. Because Warner Brothers is a hot mess. We literally just talked about this on the main podcast. Warner Brothers is a hot mess. I'm so pleased that this is just completely not even involved with that hot mess. But you can't have Lyta Hall and not talk about who her parents and her husband's parents are, because it's kind of a big deal. So I'm waiting to see in season 2 if we get more expansion on that. But every episode of Sandman, including the bonus episodes that we got, which were phenomenal, A Dream of a Thousand Cats. Y'all, when I tell you I was crying from the first moment when they drowned the kittens. I was done. And then I spent the entire rest of the episode in various states of just bawling, and I was a mess. I am 100% for that. I am looking forward to season 2. Gwendolyn Christie having an expanded role as Lucifer, and I absolutely love that she and the gentleman who plays Lucifer on the TV series actually consulted each other.
Tom, I love
that. I love that
they are playing the same character, and Mazikeen is there with both of them, because but they're so wildly different.
Yes,
you can see the similarities, and I love it.
Yeah, and I love that they had those 4 actors sit down and talk with each other to make sure that the continuity worked through both shows. And it's a little thing, but it's just so smart. It's so smart. So I am looking forward to Sandman season 2. It was literally one of those shows that I'm like, I'm gonna watch Sandman now. I watched it. I'm in the mood to watch Sandman again. I'm gonna
watch it. Which is based on a true story. An American journalist, Jacob, he relocates from Missouri to Tokyo in the late 1990s, and he ends up working at one of the top newspapers in Japan, and he works his way from the very bottom to the top, and while he's doing it, he ends up getting involved with the seedy underworld that's in Tokyo with the Yakuza. He ends up working very closely with a veteran detective on the Vice Squad, who's played by Ken Watanabe, which was the whole reason why I watched the show. Because Ansel Elgort is the star. He plays Jacob, who I'm not really a fan of, but Ken Watanabe I know is always gonna fucking deliver, so I'm watching it for him. And the twists and turns that this show takes, and the fact that it's all based on the book that he wrote about his actual lived experiences, it's insane. The stuff that he gets into, the stuff that he gets drawn into, the things he has to do to get a good story, they allude to things going on with his family back home. Like, they keep calling him, they want him to come home, and he's just ignoring it. I think his sister might have cancer. I don't think it's been express very clearly, but she sent, because it's the 90s, she's recording cassette tapes and mailing them to him, so he listens to them throughout the day, and she sounds fine, but then his parents talk, they're like, you really need to come home. He's like, no, I'm happy here, I'm doing great here. Meanwhile, he's like meeting with Yakuza bosses, he's making friends with like guys in Yakuza and a semi-prostitute, and it's just a wild show, and I love a true story, so the fact that all of this is based on his lived experiences makes it that much wilder. Like, I'm sure a lot of it is dramatized for TV, but there's a kernel of truth in this show. It's crazy, and it's so well acted too. Oh, and Rinko from Pacific Rim. Oh, I can't remember her last name, but she's in this too, and
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, she's in the too.
Yeah.
The head journalist that he is working and training under. She is also phenomenal. She doesn't have very many scenes, but when she does, again, she delivers.
Nice.